Bailey Zappi was under consistent fire. Again, the run game, the running backs really were able to compensate for some leaky blocking up there. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that Trent Brown was a healthy scratch today. Now, we know he's dealt with a bunch of injuries. He had an illness earlier in the week, but he was removed from the injury report on Friday and didn't play in this game. You came out with one of many insightful pieces. You've just been banging these out. There was another on Mike Onwenu and his future status. Seriously, check out Sophie's work. She has been on top of all the really good offensive line news. But can you give us some perspective into Trent Brown's situation? Because, I mean, he's a guy who was self-declared the best offensive player on the team, but it's been pretty obvious, especially last week, that the effort just hasn't really been there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely clear he's not giving it his all, and I think it's a level of frustration from him, just with the way he's been kind of handled by the organization. First off, you talked about that consistent pressure. Regardless of how they feel, though, you can tell when Trent Brown's in the game. We're not there for all the off the field stuff, but when he's in that game, it's definitely better protection for the quarterback, and he is a good player. But his effort levels, I think, in practice and even sometimes in the games, have been a lot lower this year because of the struggles. I think the frustration he's had all season, it started with one where he was very outspoken when Malik Cunningham first was signed by the Ravens, where he posted on social media basically saying, "Go where you're respected." And so about a week later, I followed up with him on that, and he was just like, we all wanted Malik to get a chance. And he was just really frustrated because like he also had a good relationship with him, but he was a little angry that he kept calling it Malik's real position at quarterback.
That's what we were saying too.
but they kept using him as a receiver. They didn't want to listen.
Right.
So I think the frustration, that was truly when we first were able to see, and he really expressed that level of frustration with me when I spoke to him about that. This past week, I then spoke to him about free agency, because after that piece went out, a lot of people started speculating on his free agency and wondering, they're like, oh, he's out the door, he's not, and all this stuff. So I went up and I just asked him. Basically, it sounds like he kind of does have a foot out the door, based on what I was told. He said it wouldn't be fair to himself. It would be a disservice to himself to not see what other opportunities are out there, because he said the Patriots have had plenty of opportunities to get the deal done, to keep him, to re-sign him. And he was told that it would happen if he put up a good season last year. And that never happened. And he was like, well, last year we didn't have an offensive coordinator. There's all this stuff that happened, but still it didn't get done when I was told it would get done. So because of that, he's going to go explore what's out there and see, all that. And just based off of that one part, it's like, I think there will be teams, regardless of all the little things that come with him, I think there will be plenty of teams that will be interested because he's a quality tackle.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if they gave their word, or, there was some handshake agreement or something that they were going to try to get another deal done, that is disappointing. And you'd like to see consistency from the organization, but also, at least from an outside perspective, it's understandable why they're kind of dragging their heels. And they even tried to give him more money. They tried to find some kind of middle ground, whether, I don't know how happy he was with what they came down with, but he had an opportunity to get more playing time. Obviously, that's not going to happen. He lost the potential to get, I think it was like $6.2 million in playtime incentives because he's missed so much time due to injury. He's been a rotational player. And I don't even think it's a situation where you can argue that, they're trying to keep the money and they don't want to pay him, because he's also been giving up more pressure at a higher rate. And not just the effort, but also the execution hasn't been there to the level where you're saying, yes, we have to keep him in the game. Because again, the pressure's been there. The run blocking hasn't been consistent. So It just seems like a toxic relationship. And I think it's probably best for both sides if they just move on. But it also, a lot of players want to test free agency, and the Patriots usually aren't hesitant to let them do that because from their perspective, they want to understand what the market is saying about that player. And if somebody wants to overpay, they're more than happy to do that. And then there's also the chance that the player's market is way lower than they expected, and they kind of have to come back to New England being like, yeah, so what? What's the best you got? And then New England is in the driver's seat. They're very comfortable living in that place. But you also, if you want to briefly touch on it, I want to forward people to your work again. But as much as you want to disclose with your conversation with Mike Onwenu, because he was kind of singing a different tune, what's the status with him and how much he wants to come back to New England next season?
Yeah, no. So Michael, anyway, I also spoke with him because there was something that stuck out to me about the trade deadline, which I believe it was reported by Mark Daniels that from Mass Live that he was in the building that whole day because he was a potential trade candidate, and he stayed in that building all day to make sure, if I was traded, they had to tell me to my face. I didn't want to have a call about it, and I was like, yeah, that's incredible.
Yep.
And he's just a good guy. So, you gotta have so much respect for that move. And, I kind of, that thought was going on over and over again in my head. And it made me think like, so how does he feel about staying next season? And his whole mindset is, I want to stay with the team that gave me a chance.
Awesome.
Based on what I heard
That's
from
awesome.
Michael Onwenu, he wants to be with the Patriots regardless. I asked him, we don't know what's going to go on with the coaching situation. It could have a whole different look to it next year. But in my opinion, the Patriots need to make it a top priority to bring this guy back. It is there. He told me there's mutual interest from both sides, and this needs to get done because he's so versatile on that offensive line from switching. He was tackle his rookie year, went to guard, and now back at tackle. Like they need him, and he's been good where he's at. So
Absolutely. There's few players that are more deserving. You talk about he's other than the injury, obviously he had ankle surgery, but he's been remarkably healthy for them, been very steady. And he also mentioned, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, how when he looked around, Trent, and David Andrews were the only veterans who were really among James Ferentz technically, but he's also basically a coach, if we're being totally honest. So he was like, yeah, we're kind of the only veterans left in the room. And he realized he had to take a step up. And that's the kind of thing you want to hear from a player who's on the brink of potentially re-signing. So Mike Onwenu, I think he's more than deserved to be a priority extension candidate, more than any of their free agents. So hoping they can get that deal done. We're also going to talk about the defense a little bit more because we cannot ignore the excellent effort that they put forth. Obviously, couldn't get the ball back on the last possession, which is an anomaly for them. Usually you see them make that stop, but this is still a very talented Bills offense. And the Bills, if we're being totally honest, did them a lot of favors. Josh Allen was not on his A game today.